Alright guys, so today we'll go over SharePoint Online, using SharePoint Online as a project management interface. We'll basically create a custom list, and we'll also create a Kanban view for the project management list. So we'll go over here to the test site I've created. First thing we'll do is we'll hit new, and then we'll go into list. After that, we're going to create a blank list, and we're going to indicate a name for this list, right? You can put the name of the project that you want, you're currently working on. I'll put this as project management example. Okay, after this, you can put some additional description if you want. I'll just hit create. It's going to create the list for us. Once it creates the list for us, it gives us the title column, and we can add additional columns. The title column is certainly very important. I'm going to just rename this. I want to use the same naming convention as Azure DevOps in this example. So I'm going to rename this to story. So we have stories for a project, and I'm also going to create two additional columns, one for features and one for epics. So I'm going to put as a single line of text, I'm going to create one called features. Just hit OK, save it, and I'll create another one here called epics. Okay, after that, we're going to create some additional columns here. I'll create one for status. We'll go over that one. So this one is a choice column. I can just type in status, for example, and then after that we can put different types of statuses. I do not want this color style situation, so I'll remove this styling here in a minute. So basically here I want, for example, idea phase. I want to know that it's in development. And I want to know, for example, that it's been rejected and it's done, for example. Okay, so here I can go into a format. I can say I want no style. Okay, I'm going to use actually styling for the whole row instead of a column type of styling. So I just removed everything because I don't want these colors here. I can just hit save. So now we have our status column. I'm also going to put some other columns here. So I'm going to basically add some dates columns, right? So I'll put date and time. I'm going to add here a start date, and I'm just going to hit save. And then we also want to create another column here, which is going to be the due date. Always no time, right? We don't want to track time here. And I'm also going to put a third one, which is an end date, for example. Okay, because we certainly want to track the difference between the due date and the end date, and that's going to be actually the logic that I have here for coloring the different lines here for each one of these specifically. So now I'm going to create some other columns which are interesting for whoever's managing the project, which is basically what's the costs, right, and who is responsible. So I'm going to put estimated cost. Leave as currency. I'm leaving US. It can be whichever is your default currency. And I'm also going to add another one, which is the actual costs. Okay, for this specific story, I'm leaving US for now. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm also going to add another one, which is responsible. So I'm going to add a person field. I'm going to say who's responsible for this. Okay, if you want more than one person, You can put here more advanced, allow multiple selections. In my case, I just want one person responsible. Yeah, I like to have just one person. I think it makes more sense. So now we have all the columns. Now let's put some test data in here, right? So I'm basically going to hit new. And here on new, I can start putting in my stories. So I can have, for example, some pre-project stories here. Let's talk about, let's say I want to I don't know, procure some servers, right? Procure servers for the project. And then for features, we can put this as a pre-project situation. And for epics, we can say this is, I don't know, the phase 1, okay. And here I can, in status, we can put this as an idea for now. We don't have a start date, but we want this by, let's say, end of this week, okay. So estimated costs, I can put that maybe this is going to cost, I don't know, 5,000. So who's responsible for this? I can say there's a person responsible for this is test 1, and I could just hit save. Okay, so now we have one entry in here. This is fine. And one of the things that I really like is to have colors to understand if we have some issues or some problems or not. And there's something very nice with SharePoint lists. They made this feature out, which was not too long ago. And if you go here to GitHub, I've already put it on the code side. So if you go here, project management. All right, so we just copy here the color code with the right schema here, which is green and red, comparing basically the end date and due date, right? So if the end date is over the due date, it's going to become red, right? So if I go here into, if I click here in the arrow to switch to views, I go into format current view. I can go into advanced mode, and I can paste here, right? The color schema that we want, the JSON, and I can just hit save. And after that, this one is green because there's no end date, right? So if I hit new, for example, and I start entering one that's overdue, it's going to become red. So let's just put one procure, I don't know, developers, okay? And we can say this feature is pre-project, it's part of phase 1, and we can say this is development, or this is done, and so this is done. It started out, let's put it in the past, right? So it started last week. The due date was supposed to be 2 days after, and then it was not met. It was done by the end of the week. Let's put $500 for the activity. Just hit save, and that one is red because it's overdue, right? So whenever we have overdue rule, it's going to become red because of that. And I used compare end date and due date. You can change this logic to whatever you want. You can leverage the schema, and you can keep on building upon this schema and evolving to your needs, right? This is totally customizable. So next thing here, after we have this structured, I certainly want to put another epic. So we have a good example here, so I'll put one more. I'll put that we want to talk about, let's say, developing homepage, and then we can say this is This is home page feature. I'll just press home page. I'll put this as phase 1. And we can say this is an idea. The due date is all the way up in the future. Some date. Estimated cost for this be 5,000. Okay. So then we have same epic, different features, right? And we have different stories. So one of the things we can do is either use this view, which I really don't recommend. I really like using different views or creating new views. So you just click here on the arrow and we can hit to create a new view, right? But since I already did some editing on the current view, I'm just going to keep on going here on the all items just so we can keep going. But you can certainly create a new view and start working from there. So I'll just put edit current view, and then once this opens, we see first thing is the columns that we want to display, right? So we're going to use features and epics in order to group the items, but we don't need to see these columns. So I'm just going to hide this out. We don't need this. I'll just leave the other ones in. And scrolling down, we see how we want to sort this, etc. I like the sorting going by the ID, in descending order, for example. That's how I like to sort things. And if we look into the group by, this is where we're going to do the magic, which is we're going to group by the epics, and then we'll group by the features. All these stories, right? I like to see expanded, the items expanded. If you want, you can use collapsed. It's all up to you. I mean, if you start having a lot of items, maybe collapse start making more sense. But for a demo here, I'll just use expanded, and then I'll just hit OK. And here we have something very nice, which is showing the epics, right? We have phase 1, which we have three items in here. We have the features, right? So features, we have one that's homepage, right? So it's developing homepage, and then on pre-project we have two of them. And we have the costs, right? We have one that's red, right? Is bumping here in our eyes that we have to act upon this, and the other ones are okay, right? So basically there's something else that we can also do which helps us in project management, which is we can also create a Kanban view, which is something very recent as well, which I like very much, and this is perfect for project management. I'll say this probably is even a great substitution to something like Trello, maybe if you already have a SharePoint Online. So you just click here and create new view, and when you do that, you just select your board, right? You type anything that you want. I'll just put in Kanban as a name, and you can just choose the column that you're going to organize by. It needs to be a choice column, right? So I'll put here status. I'll hit here create, and then we have a couple of columns here based upon what we had in the choice field, right? So if you prefer this based upon other things like maybe features or epics, if you want to organize that way, just make sure you create them as choice fields, and you can leverage the Kanban board in that fashion as well. Whichever way is better for you is fine. So here it even tells us, right, the story. It tells us if there's someone responsible showing, right, there's someone responsible, there's test one responsible, and we can just keep on scrolling down, right, to see more things that we have, right, here for us. So right now we have two under idea, and for example, if developing homepage is under idea, for example, I want to move that to development. I don't have to go into the item specifically and change that. I can just drag this around, right, and put this here, and it will change the status for us automatically it gives us a little check here showing, and it's showing here the due date, right, when it's due, and etc. So this is not the default view, right? The other one's the default view, all items. So if I go back here to all items, this is the view here, right? And the other one is done, right? The status of the other one is done. That's why we're seeing it like right away over there on the left side. If we go back to Kanban, if we scroll to the right, we'll see the other one is right there, is done, right? So if you want to change the status something else, you can just drag it around and it will change the status automatically for you, right? So if this one is developing, is ongoing, you just change this around and it just becomes that other status right away, right? So if this is done, we move that back, then it's back to done, and this one I can say the procure server is also done, and this is all done here. So you can just work right from this interface, and you can start editing the items as needed as well. So this was a little project management demo interface that I wanted to do for you. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have fun hacking your SharePoint list there to make it worthwhile your project management.